don't you think?
It's amazing what 12 years can do to a place.
There's so much tox here. Let's get some samples.
Hey, Zoe. This one looks different.
Watch out!
It started like any normal day. In New York, people rushed to work, coffee in hand. In Tokyo, trains moved smoothly through busy stations. In Cairo, the sun burned bright over the desert. Life was loud, messy, fast. People argued, laughed, lived. Then the sky changed. It was sudden, no warning. Across the world, clouds twisted into strange shapes. The wind stopped. Birds flew in every direction, like they were running from something. Then came the sound. A deep, low hum, like the earth itself was holding its breath. And then they appeared. Massive ships, black and silver, floated over major cities. Not just one or two, dozens, hundreds. Perfect circles. They didn't land. They didn't shoot. They just hovered, silent, watching. Each ship was bigger than a skyscraper. They had no windows, no lights, no visible engines. People stared, afraid to blink. Some recorded videos. Others ran. Many just froze. Traffic stopped. Planes were grounded. Schools closed. Everything paused. For 3 days, the ships did nothing. Governments called emergency meetings. Scientists tried to send signals. Military jets flew close but didn't attack. They were told not to provoke. No one wanted a war, especially not with something so powerful. Some people hoped they came in peace. Maybe they were explorers. Maybe they wanted to help us. There were protests and prayers. News channels ran 24/7 coverage. Some called it the end of the world. Others called it the beginning of a new one. Then, on the 4th day, the world heard the voice. It didn't come from speakers. It came from everywhere. Phones, TVs, radios, even inside people's minds. The voice was cold, clear, and cruel. We are the Karn. You are weak. This planet is now ours. Silence followed. People didn't scream. They didn't cry. Not at first. They just stared. Some dropped to their knees. Others held their loved ones close. The world had just been told, you don't own your home anymore. Then came the laughter. Not from people, from the sky. A strange, echoing laugh spread through the clouds. It was alien, mocking, like they found us funny, like they saw us as ants trying to fight a storm. The Karn didn't destroy anything, yet, but they didn't need to. Just their presence was enough. Satellites started failing. Power grids flickered. Planes were grounded permanently. It was like they controlled the air itself. Still, humanity tried. Presidents and generals sent messages. We will resist. We will defend our planet. But the Xarn only replied with more laughter. Your leaders speak loudly, like insects screaming before the flame. The message was clear. We don't care what you say. We don't fear what you do. But if there's one thing history has taught us, it's this. When humans are cornered, we don't break. We get clever. We fight differently. We survive. And in secret corners of the world, some brave souls were already planning something strange, something that Xarn would never expect. But for now, the ships hovered, waiting, watching, and humanity held its breath. The Kharn had arrived. Their message was simple: you are weak. This world is ours now. Their ships hovered over our cities, silent and massive, like giant shadows cast across the future. But they didn't fire. They didn't destroy. And that gave us time. At first, there was panic. People ran from the cities. Roads were jammed. Supermarkets emptied. Some thought hiding underground would save them. Others joined online forums to guess what the aliens would do next. But soon the fear began to turn into something else: anger. The Xarn thought we were weak. We wanted to prove them wrong. For the first time in history, every country put aside their differences. Flags didn't matter anymore. Borders meant nothing. Humanity had one enemy now, and it didn't come from Earth. A global defense council was formed. The best generals, scientists, engineers, and leaders joined forces. In secret underground bases, war rooms lit up with plans. Satellites tried to scan the Tarn ships. Engineers built new weapons around the clock. Scientists worked on shield-breaking tech. Everyone wanted to fight back. And we did. The first attack was small. A group of fighter jets launched missiles at the ship over Washington, D.C. The missiles hit, but nothing happened. The explosions were swallowed by a glowing blue field. No damage. No response, just silence. Then came the second wave: stronger missiles, faster jets, and even a nuclear test far from any city. Still nothing. The Xarn ships didn't even flinch. Then the voice returned: your weapons are toys. Your minds are simple. You resist because you do not understand. You are not fighters. You are pets who forgot their place. The world watched in horror. All our strongest weapons had failed. Some began to lose hope. But not everyone. Leela Kane, a 26-year-old engineer working in a research bunker in Iceland, watched the footage again and again. She saw something others missed: the smallest flicker in the shield when the music from one of the fighter jet's comm systems blowed into the signal. She had a strange idea. While the rest of the world kept building weapons, Leela asked a different question. What if the Xarn don't understand us at all? Weapons, logic, order. That's what the Xarn seemed to care about. But what about the things that made us human? Emotion, art, chaos, creativity. Leela believed we had something that Xarn had never seen before. Something messy, beautiful, unpredictable. She shared her idea with a few trusted friends: coders, artists, musicians, mathematicians, and even game designers. Instead of bullets, they wanted to fight with code. Not just code that attacked, but code that confused, that danced, that felt. They began work on something new, something strange, something that Xarn could never expect. They called it Project Dreamfire. It wasn't official, it wasn't approved, and it wasn't safe, but it was human. While the rest of the world focused on science and steel, Leela's team worked in secret. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for identity, for the soul of what it meant to be human. And somewhere above, the Xarn kept watching, waiting. They still believed they had already won. They still believed we were weak. They had no idea what was coming. While the world's top scientists and generals tried to fight the Xarn with brute force, Leela Kane was working on something else. Something strange. Something no one had tried before. Her lab was deep under the ice of Iceland, hidden from satellite scans and alien tech. It had once been used to study volcanic activity, but now it had a new purpose: saving the world. Leela was young, brilliant, and different. She didn't care about rules. She didn't think like the others. Where some saw hopelessness, she saw a puzzle. And this puzzle had one big question: if that Xarn can block our weapons, what can't they block? That question kept her up at night. One evening, after rewatching footage of the failed attacks, something clicked. She noticed a glitch in one of the Tarn ships. Just for a moment, its shield shimmered with color when a pilot's voice crackled through the radio. He had been singing out of fear. It was tiny, easy to miss. But to Leela, it was a spark. Maybe the Tarn didn't just block energy, they filtered it, controlled it, ordered it. What if they couldn't handle chaos? Human chaos wasn't just disorder. It was art, emotion, music, poetry, things that didn't follow strict logic, things that moved people, not machines. She needed help. So Leela formed a secret team: scientists who thought like poets and artists who thought like hackers. She brought in Rejiv, a musician who could turn math into melodies. Mai, a game designer who built AI that behaved like dreams. Kaido, a mathematician obsessed with impossible patterns. Ezra, a street poet and coder with a sharp tongue and sharper brain. They weren't soldiers. They weren't weapons experts. They were creators. Together, they built a new kind of program. Not a virus. Not a weapon. Something that felt more like a symphony. A digital storm of music, code, rhythm, and emotion. Something wild. Beautiful. Strange. They called it Dreamfire. Dreamfire was designed to slip into the global internet and spread, hidden inside music files, artwork, memes, anything human. It wasn't just meant to crash systems. It was meant to confuse them, overload them with what they couldn't understand: art, soul, feeling. The team tested it in the lab. At first, it crashed their own systems, but then they learned to guide it like an orchestra. Dreamfire became alive in a way. It responded to sound, rhythm, even mood. But would it work on the Xarn? No one knew. The team was scared. They knew what would happen if they failed. They'd be caught, or worse, noticed by the Xarn. But they also knew the world was running out of time. Governments were preparing one last massive attack. If it failed, humanity might fall. So Leela made the call. "We launch Dreamfire tonight." Her voice was calm, steady. "Not with missiles, not with fire. With us, with everything we are." That night, while the world watched the skies in fear, a storm was brewing in the digital shadows. A different kind of weapon. A different kind of hope. A human hope. The world didn't notice it at first. There were no explosions, no fire in the sky, no sound of battle, but something had changed. Something new had entered the system. Dreamfire was live. Leela and her team launched it in the dead of night, using dozens of hacked satellites and hidden underground servers. It wasn't flashy. It was quiet, invisible. But it moved fast, like a whisper traveling through every wire, every screen, every sound wave on Earth. Dreamfire hid inside music files, video streams, even TikToks and memes. It spread across the internet like wildfire, quiet, elegant chaos. And then something strange happened. At exactly 3:12 a.m. UTC, the Xarn ship over Paris blinked. Just for a moment. One light. A flicker. Almost like a heartbeat. Leela's team was watching. Rajiv sat up straight. Did anyone else see that? Seconds later, the ship's lights began to pulse. Randomly. No longer the steady, cold glow they always had. The colors changed, too. Soft greens, warm reds, flickering yellows. Then the Xarn's global broadcast system glitched. Their deep voice, once calm and cruel, stuttered. ALE, R, T, unknown, SIGNAL, INFECT, on. Every ship across Earth flickered, shimmered, and pulsed like they were confused or dizzy. The team couldn't believe it. Dreamfire was working. Mai ran a diagnostic. The signal had already reached at least 9 Xarn ships. More were lighting up by the second. Kaido smiled for the first time in weeks. They don't know how to process it. The rhythm, the irregular data. It's too human. The Xarn systems were built for control, for order. Dreamfire was the opposite. It was emotion in motion. Code that moved like a heartbeat, danced like a dream, and shifted like a human mood. Their systems didn't know what to do with it. And then came the first real sign of fear, from the Xarn. Across every screen, phone, and radio, the alien voice spoke again, but this time it sounded afraid. "You do not follow rules. You do not obey pattern. What are you?" Leela leaned into the mic of her terminal, eyes sharp. "We're human." Then she hit enter and launched the second wave of Dreamfire. This version was even more chaotic. It carried laughter. It carried crying. It carried the sound of rain, the rhythm of jazz, the whispers of bedtime stories. It carried emotion in every line of code. No logic. No pattern. And the ships began to fall. Not explode, fall. Gently, slowly, controlled crashes. The Xarn ships that once hovered like gods now spun slowly toward the ground, lights blinking like dying stars. They didn't burn. They didn't fight back. It was as if they were overwhelmed. Broken. Not physically, but mentally. Dreamfire hadn't destroyed them, it had confused them. It was like showing a painting to a calculator. The world watched in silence. For months, humanity had tried everything: guns, bombs, lasers. Nothing worked. But now one small team hiding under Iceland had brought the impossible to life. With music, art, code, and feeling, they had struck first. And the Axarn didn't laugh anymore. The world watched in shock. The mighty Axarn ships, once untouchable, unshakable, were now blinking, shaking, even crashing, slowly, confused. Like machines stuck in a dream. People didn't cheer. Not yet. No one knew what was happening. But in the underground lab in Iceland, Leela Kane and her team were already scanning the results. Dreamfire had spread through at least 70% of the alien systems. What started as an experiment in chaos had turned into something far more powerful. It had become a mirror, reflecting something back at the Xarn they didn't understand: emotion, imagination, humanity. Kaido ran analysis after analysis. Something didn't make sense. They're not just reacting like machines. They're feeling something. I don't think they're just tech. He was right. Further scans revealed what no one expected. The Xarn weren't simply machines or aliens inside metal ships. They were the ships. Each Axarn was a living, thinking, biodigital being, part machine, part mind, part something in between. They were built from a strange mix of organic matter and advanced programming. Their bodies were their ships, their minds spread across systems like clouds of logic. They didn't think like us. They didn't feel like us. Their entire species was built for order, control, perfection. And that was their weakness. Rajiv leaned back from his station stunned. They don't understand music because they don't have emotion. They don't have chaos. They're like living computers that never learn to dream. Mai added, and now we've infected them with a virus made from dreams. That was the truth about the Xarn. They thought we were weak because we weren't predictable, because we didn't follow clean patterns or perfect systems, because we argued, cried, created, danced, and made weird jokes in the middle of war. But that wasn't weakness. That was our strength. Humans could adapt, improvise, imagine. That Axarn had never faced anything like us. Not truly. Other species they had conquered were logical, organized. They followed rules. That Axarn could crush them with efficiency. But humans? We painted emotions onto cave walls before we even knew how to write. We sang before we built tools. We told stories to survive the dark. We built chaos into our very souls. And now that chaos was taking down the most advanced enemy Earth had ever seen. Leela looked at the latest reports. 10 more ships had gone offline. The Dreamfire signals had begun to loop inside the Xarn systems, creating feedback that their minds couldn't filter. One message kept repeating inside the ships: feel this. And they did. For the first time in their existence, the Xarn were feeling fear, confusion, wonder, maybe even awe. But they weren't built for it, and it was tearing them apart. Leela stood in the center of the lab, quiet for a long moment. Her voice was calm, but serious. They didn't come here to destroy us. They came here to control us. But you can't control what you don't understand. And now, they finally understand what it means to be human. The war was changing. No more missiles. No more brute force. This was a battle of minds, and humanity was winning with creativity, chaos, and soul. The Xarn thought they had us figured out. But now they were learning the hard way. We don't follow the rules. We rewrite them. The world was waking up to a miracle. The alien ships that once filled the skies like gods were now blinking, falling, or frozen in midair, confused, broken, overwhelmed. Dreamfire had worked. The virus of emotion and chaos had done what no missile or laser ever could. But it wasn't over. Leela Kane stood in the center of the underground command room, watching dozens of screens show the strange sight of Xarn ships spiraling in the sky. Some drifted like leaves in the wind. Others crashed softly into oceans or empty deserts. Still, about 30 ships remained active, and they were changing. Mai stared at the data stream pouring in. They're adapting. She was right. The Xarn were learning. They had started filtering some of the signals. They were building internal firewalls, trying to block the chaos. The surviving ships weren't just resisting, they were fighting back. One ship over Tokyo lit up with a deep red glow and fired a beam into a government building. Another in South America sent a blast that wiped out an entire communication center. They were slow, uncoordinated, but dangerous again. Leela knew what that meant. We bought time, but if we stop now, we lose everything. They had to push. Harder. Faster. One final strike. The final push. But there was a problem. Dreamfire was burning out. It had spread across the internet, the airwaves, the satellites. But now the Axaran were starting to resist it. Leila's team needed something more, something deeper. Rajiv had an idea. What if we don't just feed Dreamfire into their systems? What if we put it inside them? The team stared at him. He explained that Axaran were living networks, bio-digital minds. If they could send a person, just one, deep into the system using a neural interface, they could trigger the core of every Axaran mind at once. Not with code, not with weapons, with human thought. It was risky, extremely dangerous. If it failed, the person might never come back. Leela didn't hesitate. I'll do it. Everyone argued she was the leader. The heart of Dreamfire. But she was also the only one who understood every line of its code and every emotion behind it. They connected her to the neural interface, a sleek black chair with wires and lights that linked to Dreamfire's core system. Mai ran diagnostics. Kaido calibrated the rhythms. Rajiv loaded the final emotional sequences, memories, music, joy, sorrow, all of it. As Leela closed her eyes, her heartbeat synced with the system. Then she was gone, her mind pulled into the digital stream. She didn't see the lab anymore. She saw stars. She floated through a vast, glowing space made of light and sound. In the distance, she saw them, giant, swirling minds of the Xarn. Cold, metallic, confused. Some tried to push her away. Others trembled as she approached. Leela didn't fight. She shared. She sent them a song her mother used to sing. She sent them the feeling of standing in the rain. She showed them a sunset through a child's eyes. She gave them love, fear, laughter, pain, everything that made her human. The Xarn mind screamed. Not in anger, in shock. They had never felt this before, and they couldn't handle it. In the real world, the last of the ships lit up, bright, hot, and then gone. One by one, the Xarn systems collapsed. And then the sky was quiet. Leela's body went still. The lab was silent. Her team stared. Then her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened. It's done, she whispered. The final push had worked. The war was over. The war was over. Across the globe, skies once filled with alien machines were now calm and clear. The Xarn were gone, not destroyed, but silenced. Their ships either crashed, powered down, or vanished into space. Some believed they fled. Others thought they had simply shut down. Whatever the truth was, humanity had won. But not with force, not with weapons, with imagination, with emotion, with something that Xarn had never seen coming, what it meant to feel. The world was still in shock. People came out of bumpers. Sirens stopped. News stations ran 24/7, showing images of quiet alien ships resting in fields and forests. Children climbed on them like playgrounds. Artists painted murals on their metallic skin. Soldiers stood guard, but with lowered weapons. No more fighting, just watching, just wondering. In Iceland, in the cold underground lab that had once been just an old volcano base, Leela Kane awoke to a world forever changed. She had been unconscious for 2 days. Her body was weak, but her mind was alive. As she sat up in the recovery bed, her team gathered around her with tears in their eyes. Rajiv grinned. You scared us. Mai handed her a mug of warm tea, still shaking. You did it, Leela. You really did it. Leela smiled softly. We did. Outside the lab, the media called her the girl who made the aliens cry. But Leela didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a messenger. A reminder that humanity's greatest strength had never been its power, but its heart. The Global Defense Council soon held a world broadcast. Leaders from every continent stood together, not to boast, but to thank. They told the story of Dreamfire, of the artists and thinkers who saved the world. They didn't hide what happened. They wanted the world to remember, because this was more than a victory. It was a warning. If another species ever came, if another threat ever rose, Earth would be ready, not just with weapons, but with wonder, with creativity, with emotion. Leela was offered anything she wanted: awards, money, power. She asked for none of it. Instead, she created something new. The Dreamfire Institute, a global center where science and art would work together. A place where poets and physicists could build together, where children could learn to code their feelings and paint their math. Because now everyone knew, humanity wasn't just about logic or strength. It was about balance. It was about turning fear into beauty and chaos into meaning. Years passed. The wreckage of iron ships was studied, turned into museums, even repurposed into clean energy systems. The world grew closer. Borders stayed, but walls fell. For once, humans had a shared story, a shared scar, and a shared hope. Leela, older now, often stood in front of the largest remaining Zarn ship, half buried in snow, humming softly, like it remembered her. Sometimes she'd press her palm to the cold metal and whisper, "We're still here. We're still dreaming," because she knew something deep down, that Karen weren't evil, just empty. And maybe, just maybe, some part of them had finally learned what it meant to be alive. They laughed at humanity, but we showed them what it means to feel. And that changed everything.